The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
You just see cuts happen.
What did that, Lieutenant?
I don't know.
What's the coroner got to say? He's in the jar and puking since he saw it.
They're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
There was somebody else there.
He was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next.
Nancy? There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
No!
She's the only one who can stop it. If she fails,
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
no one will survive. From Wes Craven, director of The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left, a new masterpiece in fantasy terror, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Welcome to Slash, a horror movie podcast. In Season 2 of Slash, we will be covering the films of the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Starting with the 1984 Wes Craven classic, and ending with its remake from 2010. Slash is available everywhere podcasts can be found. You can follow Slash on Twitter at /horror. And you can find every episode of Slash at fansnotexperts.com/slash. Enjoy the show. Remember that it's fun to be scared. And whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Greetings, horror fans, and welcome back to Season 2. Wait, Season 2 of Slash. I think you already know what I'm going to be talking about in Season 2. It took me long enough to finish Season 1. But now, I'm back and ready to talk more horror. Now, I bought this shirt. Look at this. Always follow your dreams. Ha 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 ha. I bought this shirt back in August, ready to do a podcast, ready to get started on Season 2, but that didn't happen. No. Instead, I ended up being very busy. Then I lost a couple weeks because I got sick. My whole house got sick. We're all good now. Everyone is negative, but, you know. Got sick, and that wiped me out for quite some time. Really slowed down a lot of my podcasting, but I needed to get back to the horror. Yes, today, while I'm recording this, it's October 13th. Yes, it's Friday the 13th. The perfect time to do A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Yes, you'd think there's a year where you're getting a Friday the 13th in October. You're getting the spookiest day on the spookiest month. And you don't do Friday the 13th as your second season? No. I didn't want to. I actually planned this to be my second season months and months ago, and I thought I'd be watching Friday the 13th by now, but laziness gets in the way. Ooh! And here I am in October, finally talking season 2, finally talking A Nightmare on Elm Street to you. And I bought this glove, I bought this hat. This is not a Freddy hat, but it was the closest thing at this Overstock store up in New Hampshire. It's brand new. I'm never going to wear it besides this. Okay, I did wear it for a picture for a Back to the Future thing I did where I wanted to look like I was a cowboy. Back to the Future 3. That's over at Geek Mentality, Marchie McFly. I'm all over the place. But folks, I don't even remember how to do this. I'm just trying to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street. Talk about the entire Nightmare on Elm Street series. We're talking 6 original films, right? Then the 6 of them, which 4 of them I saw in the theater. 3, 4, 5, and Freddy's Dead with the 3D glasses. Then, actually, A New Nightmare kind of still counts as that. It's sort of not quite the original, but it's kind of in the same vein. It's Wes Craven again. I saw that in the theater too. Then we had kind of a joining between 2 major killers. Saw that in the theater. And then the 2010 remake, which I rented on DVD. And seeing it this time around, this is different because I've seen all these movies, seen them all. The next, but some of them I haven't seen in many, many years. I'm trying to think if I've seen Freddy vs. Jason a couple times, I think. A New Nightmare all the way through, I'm not sure. But definitely the remake I've only watched once, and for this will be my second and possibly and probably last time ever seeing it. But I'm kind of looking forward to revisiting it just to see how it feels, to see how it compares to this, the 1984 classic that I haven't seen all the way through in some time. And really it should be heavy in my October rotation going forward, because revisiting it, while I do bring up some questions and think, well, what the hell's going on here? It's still a pretty spectacular movie that brings in a pretty spectacular killer that obviously kind of, I don't want to say it crafted my love of horror, but Freddy Krueger was one of the big ones for me. I remember being frightened like crazy of Jason Voorhees, The Mask, and maybe it's because I had a neighbor who would sometimes wear a mask and grab the knife to and I would freak out. I would be like, and I'm a kid, and this is my friend. Kind of a prick move, don't you think? But I put up with it because they thought it was funny, haha. I remember going to his house and they were going to watch one of the Friday the 13th, and I remember calling home and was going, Mom, what time's dinner? Please say now. Please say now. Please let me go. Like, I couldn't just lie. I had to be told. I had to be like, it's okay to come home, son, and just run down the street, get back home. Like, they didn't have the Jason hockey mask. He had a hockey mask. This goes back, and he had older brothers who had actually had a goalie mask that looked like that. So, of course, what's the natural thing is to try to scare your friends. Great. Awesome. Michael Myers. Obviously, I did all those Halloween movies. To me, I felt like it was almost like early on, felt like prestige movies. Like the first Halloween was so good. And as you watch the sequels, you realize just how shitty those sequels are. But Freddy, I remember really being afraid early on I think like the early time, but I don't know if it was because I saw part 2 on home video, and then part 3 comes out, and I'll talk about it more when we get there. But I saw that in the theater. Now, I was a kid. My dad brought me and my brother to see that, and I started realizing, well, first of all, I was starting to enjoy special effects and realizing these are just movies, and I loved that Freddy talked. That made him unique. He was funny. He had a personality. And he was just a unique overall something. Like, think about the concept of something that kills you in your dreams. Now, this movie, you realize there's a lot. Some of this is going into real life. I'm going to wear this glove for every episode. So get used to it. And maybe this hat and possibly the shirt. I will wash it in between episodes. Don't worry. But what, like the horror of the fact that, Michael Myers, you could run that way. He's not going to chase you. Jason's not going to chase you. They'll come after you, but they'll come after you slowly. So as long as you don't confront them, you can get away. With Freddy, think about it. Unless you know what you're doing in your dreams, like the great Nancy Thompson, or Nancy Thomas, Nancy Thomas, yes. If you don't quite know what you're doing, you could be killed at any time. The rules are pretty simple. You die in your dreams, killed by Freddy, you're dead in real life. And I remember the idea of that, I think, scared me early on. But I just remember always trying to study, like, when did they fall asleep? Oh, they were sleeping right now. Like, I just got into the whole idea of Freddy. And this isn't the first glove I owned. I had a Freddy Krueger Halloween costume with a crappy hat, a crappy mask, and these gloves that was probably the best part of it. It was very similar to this, very plasticky, But if you're not watching on YouTube, folks, if you're just listening to it, I'm wearing the Freddy glove and wearing a hat that's close enough to Freddy and wearing a t-shirt that shows a cute looking Freddy Krueger and it says, always follow your dreams. I wore it over to my mother-in-law's house and she said, oh, always follow your dreams. That's so sweet. I was like, thank you. Thank you very much. But I had the costume as a kid. I don't think I had the red and green sweater, so I just wore it, whatever. I had a full-fledged door-long Freddy Krueger poster like that I had on my closet. Not my front door, my closet. And folks, my bed was situated in such a way that when you go to sleep at night, if you're either looking at my dresser or you're turning and staring at my closet and falling asleep to Robert Englund dressed up as Freddy Krueger with his gloved knives out, just staring at you. Think about it. Now, he is considered a child killer here. I know originally they talked about him being a child molester and killer, but I think they just called him a child murderer. And either way, and there my light goes. It just goes off and on, a little brighter here and there. Either way, I'm celebrating a character that kills children. And I didn't realize how young these kids are in this movie, or they're supposed to be. A character that kills children. I got to put this down, but I'm not taking it off. And kids are like, and he's being like advertised to kids. It's insane when you think about it. It's awesome, but it's insane. I mean, he had video games. He had a TV show. I don't think he had a cartoon, but I believe there were toys. I definitely remember seeing like cards or gum, all kinds of stuff. That's a Nightmare on Elm Street. He had records. There were hit songs by Dokken, who I saw in concert a couple of years ago sing it. Don can't quite hit any of those notes, but they still tried. There were 2 rap songs. Think about that. I remember there was the official rap song with the Fat Boys, and then there was always that unofficial one, Nightmare on My Street, where it was like a fake Freddy Krueger voice by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And I loved that version. Now I think Will Smith is a giant asshole. But back then, I thought I like that song better. And I think I know most of the words. Now, I'm not going to get there today. We're not going to talk about that today. I honestly wanted to get this up for you by Friday the 13th, but the fact that I'm recording this on Friday the 13th is great. All in all, there's good chances this is going to be up on Saturday the 14th. Not as good as of a movie, but it's still a movie if you've ever seen Saturday the 14th. And of course, we're not talking Friday the 13th, but it is the spooky day. And I thought, what a better time to at least talk and watch a horror movie that I haven't seen in a long time. A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. It only has a running time of 91 minutes, and that's including credits. So it's a tick under an hour and a half. It's available now on HBO Max. So if you have HBO, or I guess it's just called Max now. If you have Max, I don't know if they're all on there. I think a lot of them are on there. But you can go watch A Nightmare on Elm Street right now. You can pause it and then come back and listen. It had a budget of $1.1 million and made $25 million according to Box Office Mojo. Wikipedia says 51 million worldwide, I guess, but I don't know. It was written and directed by the man, the myth, the legend, the late great Wes Craven, who I believe he stays on in some respect, maybe as a producer. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to kind of revisit. This is all just coming off the top of my noggin. He does come back for Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which I'm ready to revisit and think, is this, like, what were they trying to do? And is this good? And I hope it is. So Nightmare on Elm Street was inspired actually by several newspaper articles. This is what I call Slashopedia, because I just go to the Wikipedia page and I pick out some things. It was inspired by several newspaper articles that were printed in the 70s in the LA Times about Hmong, I hope I'm saying that right, or Hmong refugees who, after fleeing to the United States because of war and genocide, suffered disturbing nightmares and they refused to sleep. They said some of the men died in their sleep soon after. The medical authorities called the phenomenon Asian death syndrome, which doesn't sound like problematic at all. The condition afflicted men between ages of 19 and 57 and is believed to be a sudden explained death and was believed to be sudden unexplained death syndrome or Brugada syndrome or both. I don't know who wrote this, but Wes Craven kind of took that. He also took the song Dreamweaver as part of an inspiration. And he stated that he got some of his inspiration from Eastern religions. I think they talk about that in the empowerment of the dream that Glenn, Johnny Depp's character, brings up later on when we actually talk about the movie, when we get into the movie. So other sources attributed to his inspiration is a 1968 film a student film that was filmed along Elm Street in New York. Okay, interesting. The film's villain, Freddy Krueger, is drawn from Craven's early life. One night, young Craven saw an elderly man walking on a side path outside. He stopped at a glance and startled Craven and walked off. This served as an inspiration for Krueger. It talks about how he was going to be a child molester, but they decided to just make him a child murderer. So, not as bad. I don't know, I guess. But they were avoiding being accused of exploiting a spate of highly publicized child molestation cases that occurred in California around the time of the film's production. He said that Freddy stands for the worst of parenthood and adulthood, the dirty old man, the nasty father, and the adult who wants children to die rather than prosper. He's the boogeyman and the worst fears of children. The adults that are out to get him, he's a primal figure. Sort of a Kronos devouring his children, the evil, twisted, perverted father figure that wants to destroy and is able to get them in the most vulnerable moment, which is when they're asleep. These are quotes from Wes Craven. It says he was bullied by a kid at school named Freddy Krueger. Well, there you go. That's a good one. Suck it, real Fred Krueger, you bully. Craven had done the same thing in his film, where he actually had someone named Krug in the last house on the left. Interesting. I didn't know that. And he said he chose red and green as the sweater after Scientific America said those two colors were the most clashing colors in the human retina. Well, I have a green screen behind me and a red shirt, so hopefully that works out. But red and green, I think Christmas. Craven tried to make him different from other horror movie villains. You know, they wore masks like Leatherface, Michael Myers, Jason. They also didn't talk. They didn't say a thing. So he wanted him to be burned and scarred. He thought, how about a glove with steak knives? Okay, interesting. And he gave the idea to a special effects guy, Jim Doyle, who created this amazing thing. And yeah, that's really, it said Craven had considered a sickle as the weapon of choice for the killer, but around the third or fourth draft of the script, the iconic glove became the final choice. So I don't know if I didn't get a lot in there. I read it quickly, but I am ready to talk about 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, which I want to say A Nightmare on Elm Street every time because very quickly I'm like, did you watch Nightmare on Elm Street? It's not called Nightmare on Elm Street. It's called A Nightmare on Elm Street. A as in one nightmare. Was this entire movie one nightmare? They almost lead you to believe that at one point. I don't know. Very interesting. I don't know why I'm talking like a vampire now. So, I said it's been so long since I've seen this that I remember as a kid not remembering. Oh, I remember as a kid not remembering. I wrote this down. The beginning, the movie opens up with like a live Freddy. We don't see his face. And I remember always being spooked out like that, even though like I've seen Robert Englund in things. Like he was in V. Okay, maybe that's all I knew him from, but I don't think I knew at the time. But I might have seen the actor's face. But the fact that the movie started with him alive and the glove, I don't remember that as a kid. I don't know if I missed it. I felt like it opened up with the dream. And it took us a moment till we do jump right into Tina's dream. But the opening almost felt like, it kind of felt like a TV opening. It was a weird credit. We see the early logo for New Line Cinema, the house that Freddie built. And right away, we hear Freddie talking. Tina. His voice seems a little different, almost like he's just talking deep voice, but he doesn't have that Freddie like you feel it later on, but it seemed early on not quite there. I like that we get the boiler room motif right away, and that of course that sticks with Freddie forever. And I think we learn even about that later in this movie, but he's not. We don't see him right away. We know that Tina knows this is just a dream. She keeps saying it's just a dream, but she can't run. She can't run for shit. She wakes up. Freddie jumps up. She wakes up, and she realizes it's just a dream. Tina's mom comes in, and I think we see her later at the grave at the cemetery. She had great seats at Rod Lane's funeral, but I'll get there later. We see Tina's mom, and her boyfriend. I don't know if that's Tina's dad. He's horny as hell. They leave. Tina goes back to bed. We wake up the next day, and right away we get 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you with the girls doing the jump rope. So I didn't expect that. And it was in the Waken world. So I'm thinking, a Woken world? I don't know. I call it Dreamland. I call it, I don't know. You know what I mean. It was in actual, real life in the movie. But it felt like we went from dreamy to boom, like awake world. I'm going to stumble over that a million times. We see Tina now with her friends. They're showing up to school. The great Heather Langenkamp and some other unknown guy, John Depp or something, as Glenn. By the end of this movie, I am so impressed by Heather Langenkamp and Nancy Thomas, who I better be saying that right, not Thompson. She is such Nancy Thompson. It's Nancy Thompson. Yep, I screwed up. She's such a badass. Like when you think about what she's actually doing, it's so impressive to me. Now, folks, I'm going to keep looking down and looking up because I have notes here in the video up here. But this is really primarily an audio podcast. So for you guys listening, you can't tell that I'm looking at the screen. It's wonderful. This is a show where I say I take a lot of notes, but I thought this season I could try not doing that as much and trying to talk a little more off the cuff. I think I could do that, but then I have 22 pages of notes here, which is ridiculous. And it's just mostly bullet points. That's probably why it's so long. It got longer because I added in all the Wikipedia stuff. And there's some quotes here that I just want to, I don't want to think about them. I want to read like lines from the movie later on. But, let's go back. We're with the kids, and they're showing up, and Tina, she starts already telling them about like her dream right away. And you could see that Glenn was like, what? And a couple, like they're all of a sudden you kind of notice they're all kind of having similar dreams, which is wild. So Tina's with Rod and Glenn and Tina's with Rod and Glenn is with Heather. So I guess we see that they're coupled up and they're all having nightmares. Now that night they all go hang out, except for Rod. He shows up a little later, and Tina and Nancy realize they're seemingly having the same dream about the same person, which is insane. Rod shows up, and you could see Glenn and Rod really don't like each other all that much. They go up. Rod and Tina go upstairs. There's my Boston accent sliding through. My New England go upstairs. And they go to make sexy time. Glenn wants to get hot and bothered with Nancy, but she is not there. She's there just for supporting Tina because Tina's afraid to go to sleep. And of course, Johnny Depp, Glenn, says morality sucks. But my goodness, Tina and Rod are having the loudest sex ever. And later, when they say her age, I really think like, what the hell is going on here? So Nancy's in her room while after they're having their sex, and we get the first little something of the cross popping off the wall. Now, is Nancy asleep? Is this awake? Like, in this movie we see Freddy manipulating things in the real world. Does that follow through in all the other movies? I don't remember that. I remember it in this movie, but I don't remember if that can happen in the future, or is it just going to be primarily in Sleepyland? Well, you know what? It has to happen because there's definitely a television in a future movie. There's no way that girl got up to that television. So I'm going to say Freddy can continue to manipulate things in the real world in future subsequent films. I just like saying subsequent, even though I couldn't say it quite there because it sounds substantive. I can't say that word. It sounds like a cool word. So Tina woke up, and we think Tina woke up. Okay, this is what used to scare me when you're seeing a character and it makes it seem like they're awake, but you realize they most certainly are not awake. And while that happens, she's like, what's going on? We get the epic shot. There's a lot of epic shots in this movie. Very memorable shots where Freddy's pushing through the wall behind Nancy. And I'm thinking they must have used like plastic wrap or something. And when she wakes up, he just kind of fades away. So he can manipulate things, but it's still in the dream world. I'm not sure exactly. But then I thought, can Freddy be in two different dreams at once? Like, he is a dream monster, but is he with Nancy so he can't be with Tina at the moment? I just wondered, like, can he attack all these kids at the same time? I don't think so. I think he can only be in one place at one time. But Nancy puts the cross back on the wall. That is a good idea. And we jump back over to Tina's dream, and I'm thinking, later on we learn more about controlling your dream and kind of taking hold of, making your choices and doing, manipulating things to your way. But it seems like, to me, Tina must not be in full control here, because who in their right mind would go outside and see this. And she sees Freddy, and it's like, oh God. And he says, this is God. I mean, we get the first real good glimpse of Freddy. It's still dark, but we can see his face is all burnt. And at this point, the song says Freddy's coming for you, but in the credits, he's listed as Fred Krueger. So I was interested to see, how many, how he's referenced throughout this movie, and in the other. I literally wrote down and in subsequent movies. It's primarily, if not totally, Freddy. God, I love subsequent. That's a word, and I said it, and it's good. And I'm thinking, do people going to the movie in 1984, do they know the killer is Fred Krueger? Or do they just know a guy kills people in their sleep? He is listed in the credits as Fred Krueger, but do they say, there's Fred Krueger, that's the killer? Or do they just oh, that's who Fred Krueger is? Oh, that's who, maybe they thought Fred Krueger was a cool dude at the high school. I don't know. We do see Freddy chop off his finger, which freaks out Tina. I think when he puts the claw, his glove over his face, when he says, this is God. I'm a killer. He attacks her. She pulls off her face, which is kind of freaky deaky. They wrestle around, and it's weird because Freddy is, all of a sudden, he's under the covers with her in the real world. But that, I think, is just I think we're seeing her dream, and we're seeing him under the covers with her. In the real world, she's freaking out. And the way she dies, I always scared the hell out of me because it was so violent, so bloody, and so well done. I'm assuming it's one of those rotating rooms. At one point, she's flung around the room. There's nothing you can do. Someone's up on wires. The stunt person. I don't think it was Amanda Wyss doing all this stuff. I don't know. But it might have been. Some of it, at least, if not all of it. But there's the part where she's on the ceiling, and I've always thought, oh, the room's upside down, which means Rod, Lane, or whoever's there in the corner is hanging upside down, even though they flip everything around. I love that. See, whenever I bite my finger, if you see that on video, it's me trying to hold back a yawn. It's 11:37 on October 13th. So this episode will not be heard from until tomorrow. So I said see you tomorrow yesterday on Twitter, but I don't have enough Twitter followers for that to be an issue. So she's gone. She's dead. We have our first official kill in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Kill count 1, our first kill. Glenn and Nancy barge into the room right away because they're hearing Rod screaming, oh God, no, and all these things. But they barge in the room, blood everywhere. Her best friend lying on the ground dead. The Rod ran. The room's empty. They don't really freak out. They don't scream. Nancy's just like, what? And now I come to realize Nancy's just a badass. So we jump over to the cops. We see the late, great John Saxon, who gets top billing in this movie. He's in it for, maybe because Heather Langenkamp is a kid and John Saxon is a name. I don't really know him from much, except I know he was in Enter the Dragon, and I remember him from this and Part 3 and A New Nightmare. I'm not going to hold that yawn back. But he goes into his office, and Nancy is in there, and we realize he's not only a police officer, he's Nancy's dad. He and Nancy's mom seem cold to each other, and I don't remember this, so I looked. I don't see any rings, and I'm thinking they must be divorced. I don't think they ever actually say it. They do a nice job of just showing the mom, showing the dad. They interact, but they don't live together. Oh, there's a yawn. I look, it's late. They don't live together, and I kind of like that you just see it taking place, but you're not just told it. You just kind of either figure it out or you don't even care. You don't even pay attention. So they're upset with her because what were they doing? What were these kids all doing at this house together? But she's trying to defend Rod, saying he didn't do this. I don't think he did this. He didn't do this. I don't know why she doesn't think this right away, or she does think this right away. But Nancy told them that Tina had been having nightmares, and that's why they were there. She's like, that's why we're there. We were there to help her. And then we jump over, we see the Thompson house for the first time. And that is the Nightmare on Elm Street house. That's the house that Patricia Arquette is making in Nightmare 3, or at least in the Dawkins video, or both. It's been a long time since I've rock and rolled with those movies, so I'm looking forward to going back to those. Nancy comes downstairs, and the news is on. And there's a couple things crazy here. Number one, they say that Tina is 15 years old. So that right away, I'm thinking, okay, her and Rod Lane doing it upstairs. Now it feels really creepy. She's 15 years old. Now I looked up, Google says Amanda Wyss was born in 1960. Even though her Wikipedia page doesn't list her age or her date of birth at all. And then I'm wondering, does she go in and remove that? And then I thought, what if I added it in? Would it all of a sudden be removed again? I would never do that because it's not my page. I'm not going to look. If it's not on there, it's not on there. It's not something that is hard to find. If she wanted it there, it would be there. But if she was born in 1960, we're thinking this was filmed in 83, maybe late 83. She's either 23 or 24 already. And if you told me she was 18, okay, fine. But 15 years old, I couldn't believe that. And also, a couple other things. The news shows her in her body bag. Her body bag is clear, first of all, so that was weird, seeing a clear body bag. And second of all, her arm just kind of flapped out of the body bag and hung there. And they were just like, oh, stick that bag back in there, no big deal. Like, that was crazy. That bloody arm was showing. It was effective. It was cool to see in a horror movie, but it didn't feel. It just felt like not quite real. The news reporter names Rod Lane as a suspect or as the actual culprit, and says that the murder weapon is like a straight razor. Names the murder weapon, even though no murder weapon was found. They already know exactly what it is, and they name the suspect. Now he's wanted. So maybe that's why. But mother's like, where are you going? It's like, I'm going to school. I can't stay home like this. I got to go to school. She goes off to school. She looks off in the distance. Someone's watching her. And I'm thinking, that must be a cop. Maybe dad said, hey, can you watch my daughter? And cop said, sure, I'll stay off way in the distance like a creep. She turns around. All of a sudden, no one's there. And then boom, Rod comes out of nowhere, grabs her, pulls her into the behind the bushes, and he's like, I didn't do this. Nancy, you got to believe me. I didn't kill her. He keeps saying he didn't do it, but it was absolutely a sting. Nancy had nothing to do with this, but her dad pulls a gun right up there. He's like, keep right there. And Rod goes, no. And he runs off. Nancy gets in front of the dad while he's holding a gun. Again, she's pretty brave. But she's not happy that it turns out they actually got Rod because there were other cops there. She's like, you used me as bait. She goes to work. She goes to school, I should say. Even though she's old enough to work, she's 20 in this movie, which comes into play later. She's 20 in real life, which comes into play later. We see the great Lynn Shay. If you don't know Lynn Shay, I think her husband actually is one of the producers of this. But really, to me, most well known. Well, she's been in some of the Farley movies, but the Insidious movies. I enjoy her in those movies. They're kind of cheesy and corny, but she is so, I don't know, the word is like good. I like just the way it seems so, I don't know, the way she does she plays the character, you just like her. I can't even think of the right word because it's very late at night and I didn't write it down, so I really don't know. But Nancy's falling asleep right in her class. And I went and looked up the actor. They get this character, John, kid in classroom. I looked him up, the actor. He has tons of things listed on his IMDb, but they're all uncredited. Man in room, hotel guest, reporter. And that made me think this dude is definitely going in and editing his own IMDb page. But hey, you did those things. I didn't, so I would do the exact same thing. Anywho, Nancy seems that she's dozing off in the classroom, and then all of a sudden she hears Nancy calling her name. And I remember as a kid, I said this trying to pinpoint the exact moment she fell asleep. I feel like if she dozed off and then puts her head up, she's already asleep. Boom. She didn't doze off. She fell asleep. And now we see why they went for the clear body bag, because it looks so cool, even if it's impractical. It looks. I don't think those were real things, were they? That seems really bad. A bad style choice, bad function choice. Why put the body in a bag then, if you're just going to let every willy-nilly person look at it? I mean, remember those Halloween movies? They had the morgue in the remakes right in the middle with the bodies right there. Again, you're doing a dumb thing to allow something to happen. The clear body bag, kind of dumb, but it really works out when she's in the... And they could have just done a white body bag and done it clear anyway, because you're in a dream, but it really works out in the school where you see her in the body bag with all the blood on her. Just friggin' fantastic. And I love that all of a sudden, while they're in the dream, the kid is whispering in the dream, and they're reading Hamlet, and there's a line, "Were it not that I have bad dreams," which I had to... I go, oh, that's really something from Hamlet. At first, I thought they were reading scary things in the dream. It was still Hamlet. Shakespeare is something I really just don't know. I'm always astounded in Jeopardy when people are like really good at Shakespeare categories. It almost like makes you want to go back and read some just so I can be like, yes, I know the answer to that. Because usually I'm just like, I know Leonardo DiCaprio fell in love with Juliet. And they both die. Even though I feel like the original Shakespeare story was always that Romeo must die. That was a long way for a bad joke. I literally wrote down long way for a bad joke. So if you thought that was off the cuff, it wasn't. Completely scripted. I don't think it was worth it. Anyway, Nancy leaves the classroom to look for Tina, who's now being dragged down the hall, and gross trails of blood. She bumps into that girl who's wearing the red and green sweater and says, "Hey, Nancy, no running in the hallway." But I love when she goes, "Where's your pass?" And Nancy says, "Screw your pass." Oh, she's so great in this. This is what I wrote. I feel like Robin Englund hasn't quite found the voice he's going to use yet. It's gravelly, but I feel like it gets gravelier. I even feel like it gets that in this movie. So Nancy goes down into the boiler room, even though it says right on it, "No students allowed." It's like, what are you doing? There's great music playing. Freddie's watching. He's watching. And boom, there he is. He cuts himself now in the chest, and the second time he's bleeding green, which I don't know. Like, isn't that what Vulcans, do they have green blood? Just that he's filled with some sort of goo is awesome. And also, I am curious why that's done. I mean, I don't know. Now, when he's pulled out into the real world, does he bleed red? I don't know. These are dumb questions that I'm going to be asking for many, many, many movies. So Freddie, he's having fun. He's giggling. He's chasing Nancy. He's like, ee. When he was chasing Tina and he's running like this, that was friggin' awesome and scary. And so anyway, we get some great lines. Nancy's like, "It's only a dream. It's only a dream." And Freddie goes, "Come to Freddie." It's so great. He's right there, and he's calling himself Freddie. So there you go. Nancy, smart. She burns her arm to freak herself out, to feel pain, to wake up, and she freaks out in class. She's like, "I got to go home." And luckily, Lin Shaye lets her leave and go home, which doesn't seem quite responsible, but she lets it happen. So Nancy leaves the school, and as she's walking now, I saw it right away on her arm. I remembered it also. But she looks down and there's an actual burn on her arm. So you start to realize that things that are happening in dreams can happen or affect you in real life. Now, I start asking myself questions because I'm a nerd. Is it because of Freddie that this is happening, or does this happen in every dream? I don't know. But it's interesting. So we jump over to the police station, it's the police station that also has a jail cell in it. And Nancy's talking to Rod. So just want to let you know, Rod is wanted for murder. And they let he's wanted for murder of a 15-year-old girl. They let another 15-year-old girl, best friend of the victim, daughter of a sergeant, go and visit him in the jail. Now, maybe she just bullies her way in and says like, "Don't you know who my father is?" and they just let her. I don't know. There's some inept cops, I think, in Springwood. Not Sergeant Thompson. No. He's, he's okay. Once he's told, go do something. But there's a guy later who's the worst cop on the force, no doubt. But anyway, Rod's telling her what really happened. Nancy wants to know, what the guy looked like. He's like, someone killed him, but he says, I couldn't see him. He was under the covers, but I didn't see him. All he saw were these cuts, these 4 cuts happening at the same time. Rod tells Nancy about dreams he has with a guy who has knives for fingers. I mean, I'd make the connection, especially if you saw this happening with some invisible man. She's freaked out, so she leaves. And we cut over to her in another epic Nightmare on Elm Street scene, Nancy in the bath. And she's singing the Freddy song to herself. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, better stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again. Boom. Didn't take one note. Never took one lesson. So she's in the bath, singing the Freddy song. She starts to fall asleep. And when she starts to fall asleep, you see the glove. It's coming out of the water, and you see it in between her legs, which is, very suggestive. I almost said subjective. I knew the word was out there. It's not subsequent. It's suggestive. Suggestive. I don't know. You know what I mean. So Nancy's mom raps on the door, wakes her up. The hand goes down. She says, everything okay? Oh, yeah, Mom. And she's like, don't fall asleep. People drown in there all the time. She's like, yeah, right, Mom. I'm not going to fall asleep. Okay, fine. 5 seconds later, Nancy's like, she starts falling asleep. And this time, Freddy pulls her completely under into this huge area of water, which is so scary, so freaky. And she kind of wakes up because you hear her screaming in the bath, yelling, Mother! But in the dream, so in real life, I assume she's just under the water freaking out. In the dream, she's pulled into this giant crevasse of water, which is pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Very, very awesome visual, dark and scary. And she wakes up, her mother barges in and she's like, I'm okay. I just slipped. I'm okay. And the mother goes away. She finds Stay Awake in the medicine cabinet, pills to keep her awake, which seems safe to have around with a kid. And then she goes into her bedroom. For some reason, she's watching a horror movie. And I'm thinking, look, I know it's early 80s and you don't have so many choices, but couldn't there be like an episode of Hogan's Heroes? Or maybe like a MASH episode you could watch? Something lighter than Evil Dead, the classic Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell horror film Evil Dead, because that's what she's watching. She opens her window and she hears something and opens her window and there's Glenn right there. He scares the hell out of her. But he's like, he knows she hasn't slept. And she's like, God, I look 20 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, Heather Langenkamp was born in 1964. So when this movie came out, she was 20 years old. So yeah, she looked 20 years old because that's why. Not 15, I guess is what she's supposed to be, which is just, And Glenn's like, he slept like a rock. And Nancy has a plan. She says, I want to go look for someone. And she wants Glenn to keep guard. She has him turn off the lights. And he's like, ooh. She's like, no, not like that. But the next thing we do, we see her leaving the house. And now we have to know she's already in her dream, right? So, and I wish I had this power. Like she's in her dream and she can go do whatever she wants in her dream. It feels like a superpower. I feel like you could almost like Inception level shit where you can go and live a completely like crazy life in your dream because you're just going to wake up and go back to your regular world. But then I'm thinking, is the sleep world and the dream world connected? Because Glenn's there outside with her. And I'm like, is she awake? No, she's definitely asleep. Because she tells Glenn, keep watch. He's like behind a tree. Yes. What I think is happening here is Glenn's awake and she's kind of talking in her sleep and Glenn's talking to her. And she's visualizing him of being out there in the yard, but he's just sitting there, I think. Or maybe he dozed off. I don't know. This is crazy. But she's definitely in the sleepy world. And she goes to the jail to look in on Rod. And she sees Freddy just walk right through the bars, which was very cool. She's yelling for Glenn. Glenn, wake me up, wake me up. And we see the bag of Tina again. It looked really gross. And all of a sudden, Freddy's behind a bush. He's like, I'm here. There's a great chase. And really, people just cannot run in their dreams. Nancy runs up these stairs, and you get these sticky, gooey steps, which I love. Freddy jumps through the mirror. Great, great stuff. Freddy really does love to take his time. Like, Nancy should be dead already. Like, Tina was dead, but he realized he's a creep, so he probably gets off on this stuff. But the alarm finally goes off, and it wakes her up, but it also wakes Glenn up. So Glenn was asleep. So they've already mastered being in each other's dreams. And I feel like I said, is that just glossed over? Yeah, it is, because it doesn't happen again. But you think, like, wouldn't they freak out the fact that it happened at all? I would. I think that's incredible. So Nancy's mom checks on her again. And in hindsight, we know she's an alcoholic. But I'm watching this going, am I picking up some hints? Like, it seemed like she's just a little, she's playing it good, but maybe she's just tired. I'm not really sure. She had Glenn go out by the window. Then she goes out, gets him. They run over to say, please check on Rod. Please check on Rod. And he's like, he's a murder suspect. But she's like, please go check on him. He's like, fine, sure, I will. And she asked her dad, what are you doing here? He's like, I work here, which really makes you realize they're divorced because, she doesn't know his hours, and maybe he doesn't usually work this late. I don't know. But they finally go to check on Rod. They're like, he's fine. He's fine. Now, of course, we know he's not. But Freddy can control things in real life. That's what has to be, because he took the rope, he put it around Rod's neck, and he made it sound like Rod killed himself. And he died pretty quickly. Like his... it went around his neck, and he's like fighting it. No, he gets pulled up. They run downstairs. He's like, I'm already dead. And I was like, wow, that was something. So now we have the kill count of 2. Very small body count in very, the first Halloween. I'm trying to think if the first one had the smallest body count. It was bigger than this. Is there even a body count? I don't know. It's so confusing. It's so left wide open for interpretation. And it almost felt like it would have made more sense if this never happened. If there were no sequels, it just would have been a cool movie with a weird ending that people would have been questioning. But everything that happened in this movie happens based on the sequels. We just can't quite tell based on this movie alone. But we're going to go with everything happened. And Rod Lane is now dead. It's not a very large funeral for him because Nancy's mom, Glenn, and I think Tina's mom are all sitting right in the front row in the seats. There's people standing in the back, maybe family members, and they're like, no, we need the neighbor's and the friend's mom to be able to sit right next to the dad and the mom. And the priest, like, did you hear what he said? He was like, it almost was like, Rod is dead because Rod deserved to die. He says, those who live by the sword die by the sword. Well, Rod didn't either. He might have been a punk, but he wasn't a killer. And he didn't kill himself either. So that is sad that in the history books, Rod Lane killed the 15-year-old girl that hung himself in prison. But we all know. We know the truth. God damn you, Fred Krueger. So Nancy finally tells her mom about her idea of who the killer is. And you could tell that they kind of were like freaked out a little bit. Like they knew what she was talking about. But they were like, oh, this is crazy. You need to get her home. And she's like, no, I'm going to get her some help. And they bring her to the Katja, Katja Institute for the Study of Sleep Disorders. And I looked this up on the Elm Street Wiki. It says the Katja Institute is likely named after Katja Shea, who was the daughter of New Line Cinema head Robert Shea, which means she's also the daughter of the great Lynn Shea. So we go in there. She's in there to go for a sleep study. And we see Roger Rabbit is the doctor, the Robert Fleischer, I think that's his name, who I've covered in different podcasts for different reasons. Never for Roger Rabbit directly, but that I feel like is his most, well, probably his most well-paying role, because he did that in the movie and in some cartoons and all kinds of Disney stuff. I think there comes another yawn. Ooh. So he's in there. The mom's like, she thinks her dreams are real, and she starts smoking right there. It's not a hospital, but it's a lab. It's very different times. And the doctor is reading different things. Oh, now she's going into deep sleep. Now she's going to start dreaming. And her levels start going through the roof. And Nancy's freaking out in bed. They run in there to wake her up. She's got scratches on her arm. And she's got Freddy's hat. And the mother's like, where did you get that? She's like, I took it out of my dream. They don't believe her, of course. But she grabbed it off his head. And I remember thinking, so whatever you grab in your dream, you can take with you. So if those are the Elm Street rules, if I'm Nancy, I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to go straight to the bank and break in, steal stuff, because, oh wait, Freddy doesn't have his hat for the rest. Freddy's bald the rest of the movie because she took his hat. So she actually took it, but that was from the dream world. It wasn't in the real world. So if you go steal the money from the bank in the dream world, you come out of the dream world to the real world, that money's still there. Well, it doesn't matter because you have it. No one saw you because you weren't actually there. It just disappeared in the middle of the night. So that's what I would do. I would obviously use this superpower to steal. Maybe I wouldn't, but I'd want to. So we get back to the house and she starts yelling at her mom. And she says, Fred Krueger, Mom, Fred Krueger, because she doesn't believe the hat. She's like, where did you get this? And Nancy finally yells at her mom about what is happening. And asks her if she knows who she is. And Nancy calls out her drinking, gets a nice whack, but I love the way she talks. At this point on, like Heather Langenkamp is nailing it. I love it. And she yells at Nancy, he's dead, believe me, he's just a nightmare. Nancy leaves the house and goes to hang out with Rod. This is a big moment, actually, I feel like in the world of A Nightmare on Elm Street. He starts talking about the Balinese way of dreaming, dream skills, and how they can basically shape their dreams into what they want them to be or create art and literature. And I feel like that concept not only galvanizes Nancy at the end of this movie, but it also galvanizes her to visit some kids having similar issues in a couple movies from now to turn them into some sort of like dream fighters or dream... I can't think of the word, but you know what I mean. So meanwhile, while she's doing that, Nancy's studying how to make booby traps. And she's like, what? I'm into survival. And she leaves, and she must have been gone for a long time because by the time she gets back, bars on every window. So the mother had to go buy the bars. And I haven't seen her go to work once, so I don't know. I don't know if she must go to work during the day. I think she was dressed like she goes to work. But she bought these bars, had them scheduled and installed all within 2 hours. Incredible. But she says to her mom, what is this, mother? She goes, security. And when Heather Langenkamp nails when she goes, security from what? Such a great like moment. And she goes, not from what, from whom? And then Mom brings her down into the basement and tells her about Freddy Krueger. She's come down to the cellar. You want to know who Fred Krueger is? And this, I wrote down every line because it is kind of his backstory. It doesn't explain why he's a magic dream man. I don't know that. But he was the filthy child murderer who killed at least 20 children in the neighborhood, kids that they knew. Kids we knew. I'm going to read it like her. It drove us crazy when we didn't know who it was, but it was even worse when they caught him. After they caught him. All the lawyers got fat and the judge got famous, but someone forgot to sign a search warrant in the right place, and Krueger was free just like that. a bunch of us parrots got together and tracked him down. We found him in an old abandoned boiler room. So there's the boiler room reference. Now we know where that comes from. And that's where he used to take his kids. So pretty gross. We took gasoline and poured it all over the place and made a trail of it out the door. We lit the whole thing on fire and watched it burn. Said, but he can't get you now. He's dead, honey, because Mommy killed him. That's weird. Just a weird way of saying it. I even took his knives, so it's okay. You can sleep. So there's a lot to unwrap there. Freddy Krueger killed kids in the neighborhood. The parents of the Elm Street kids got together and killed Freddy. So now he's taking out revenge on the new kids or these kids, or I don't know. Well, it must be these kids, because if these parents are the ones who killed him, and Heather Langenkamp doesn't remember, maybe she was a baby. I don't know. She doesn't remember any of this, but she has the actual glove. The glove, not the glove I'm wearing, an actual glove. The actual glove that Freddy Krueger killed kids with when he was alive. And she has it just hanging out in her furnace. And I'm like, okay, let's say ghosts are real, right? Maybe having something connected to this glove in your house might not be a good idea. Just like take it outside, pour salt on it and burn it. That's what, the Winchester boys would do. Because I feel like that would keep the haunting right there. Now, it's not happening just in this house, but why draw any attention? And I'm thinking, does that original glove ever come up again in the series? Like the actual glove. I know he's got a glove in his dreams and he kills people with them. But the actual glove that Mommy kept in the furnace, does this ever come into play again? I feel like it should. Does it come into play in the next movie? I don't even remember. It's been so long since I've seen part 2. But if it doesn't, that's too bad. So we cut over to Glenn in bed, and I'm like, uh-oh. That's not good. I don't know if you remember, but in the 80s, young men used to wear half shirts. I don't know if it's a football jersey or not, but I didn't wear it because no one wants to see what's going on down there. But young men used to wear cut-off shirts. Like, it was cool. They like working out. Maybe want to show off their abs. But my goodness gracious, some guys did. It just was never me. Nancy calls him, wakes him up. He comes over. She hasn't slept in 7 days. He knows that. He can figure it out. She hasn't slept. And her plan is to bring Freddy out of the dream world. Glenn thinks it's nuts, but he loves her anyway. I'm sorry, he didn't come over. They did this over the phone. She wants him to come over at midnight and beat on the brat with a baseball bat. She wants him to be there to wake him up. She says she's going to pull Freddy out of the dream, and when she does, you need to kick his ass. And he's like, that's crazy, but okay. And she says, and Glenn, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. So he goes back to watch some TV, and Nancy's at home trying to stay awake. Glenn, on the other hand, he's already dozing off. His mother wakes him up. He had his TV on, his stereo on, and he mentioned that Miss Nude America was on tonight. And I'm thinking, you have an antenna TV. How are you watching Miss Nude America? That's kind of stuff that like as a kid, I'm going, well, that doesn't seem like it could happen. But again, that's a throwaway line that really doesn't mean anything. It's 11:42. He's like, he just needs to stay awake for 18 more minutes. And Glenn's mom, while she seems nice, Nancy's mom is a bit munch. Now Nancy is kind of seeing her to bed. And, I'm sorry. Nancy's mom is next to her in bed. Everything's going to be okay. And she takes all the coffee pot and she leaves. But you can see in her cup, I feel like there's a nip, a little bottle in the mom's mug. I think that's what I saw in there. But the mother leaves right away. Nancy's like, zoinks. She has another full coffee pot percolating right under her nightstand, right next to the bed. I love it. She goes and gets dressed and looks out her window. She looks over to Glenn's house. Then she sees the dad standing out there. Glenn's dad, who seems to be a prick. Mom comes out there for a little coffee. He's drinking a beer. And I'm thinking, it's 11:45. When do these old people go to bed? Dad thinks Nancy's some kind of lunatic. He's like, I don't want her hanging around with our son at all. The mom's defending her, though. She's like, oh, she's just been going through a lot. She's just worried. They're all alone over there. But Nancy's ready to roll. She goes outside and see her mom. Her mom's in the hallway, glugging some hidden bottles. All these lights are on in the hallway. I'm like, this is how people live in the middle of the night? My house, 8 o'clock, you better start being quiet. I mean, at the very least, make sure the sound machine is on the other room so you can podcast about horror movies at 12:19 a.m. How exciting. It's now Saturday the 14th, ladies and gentlemen. So she had she says she doesn't want to hang around with Glenn anymore. Nancy's ready to roll. I told you that part. So she calls Glenn. The parents answer the phone. Glenn doesn't have his own line. And nobody says, why are you calling after midnight? They're living life like it's 8 p.m. But it's 11:48, I think, at this point. Takes the phone off the hook. And he's like, Glenn's sleeping. He'll call you in the morning. Hangs up. Takes the phone off the hook so she can't call back. Nancy gets all angry, rips the cord out of the wall. And she's like, oh. But then, first the phone rings and she hears metal scraping. I guess she might have dozed off. I'm always trying to be like, you can't hear any of this unless you're asleep. But I don't know if that's true. So she rips the phone out of the wall. She's like, great. Now if Glenn wants to call me back, he can. But then the phone rings. I'm like, oh, yes. He picks it up and he says, and Freddie on the other line goes, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. And then we get the tongue, classic moment. She's like, boyfriend? And right away, she's like freaked out for Glenn's safety because why would he be saying boyfriend? She runs downstairs, tries to leave, but her mom locked everything up. Her mom's lying on the couch, drunk. She's like, I locked everything and I don't have the key. And you realize, Glenn's in trouble. It's now 12 midnight and the TV goes off the air. Channel network station KRGR. Get it? Kruger? It's leaving the air. Yes, that's another thing, kids. TV stations used to go off the air. They weren't on 24 hours a day. You'd maybe see like the national anthem, some planes flying over the Grand Canyon, and then it would either turn to bars or I think it would just turn to bars until the morning. But boom, here we go. This is the best kill easily of the movie because is it the last? It's so confusing. No, I don't know. I just don't know. But it's the best kill of the movie. Glenn is, and it's the most iconic kill of Nightmare. And it's funny because Freddy's not even in the scene, except you see his arms pull Glenn into his own bed, and just blood, a sea of blood, an ocean of blood, a river of blood, all kinds of watery metaphors of blood. It just flows up into the air, and you're thinking, well, is this in Glenn's dream? This is scary, but how is this happening? Who cares really? But really, how is this happening? Glenn's mom opens the door and she sees it. She freaks out. Like they get there and the blood is everywhere. It's not just in the dream. So, well, I guess Tina's blood was there too. So what actually happened to Glenn? Like, where is he? Well, how did he die? No, none of these questions come up. But is he just jelly now? Because we get there, all of a sudden we cut, and there's cops and paramedics are there. And somebody says, you don't need a stretcher, you need a mop. And I'm thinking, yikes, buddy, not the nicest thing. Nancy's dad shows up and waves to her from her house. She's like behind the bars. Hi, Daddy. Inside, they're literally putting buckets down to collect the blood dripping from the ceiling. You see the dad just freaking out, like just really upset. Nancy calls over there. Now she's on the phone, looks like down by the kitchen, and tells her dad, look, I'm going into my dreams to go get this guy. Can you be here to arrest him when I wake up? He's like, yeah, okay, sure. Let's be honest. If your daughter said that to you, you'd be like, oh my God, she needs help. You know there's this Freddy guy out there. Or there was this Freddy guy out there. You don't know how she knows about this. But your first thought isn't, scary, monster man in dreams. Even though she's telling the truth. But again, I'm not sure how this whole thing is explained. This boy was sucked into his bed. His stereo and stuff got pulled in too. Where did that go? Where is his body? Is it just blood? What is this giant hole in the bed? Is the hole still there? Did he just fall through the bed? Like what actually, I feel like this should be the biggest story in the world. Like on every late night weird detective show or a current affair or whatever. What the hell happened to the mysterious boy in the bed? I don't know. But Nancy's like, okay, you're dead. That's cool. Everyone's dead. She just goes right back to work, starts building her booby trap. I love how goddamn resourceful she is. She's got gunpowder in the light bulb. She's got the sledgehammer hooked up to the door. Nancy Thompson is a certified badass. I wrote that down. I've said it, I think, multiple times, but it's pretty awesome. So back over at Glenn's house, his dad looks in the room, and you see not his dad, but her dad looks in the room, the cop. And the look on his face, he's like, oh my God. He's like, what's the coroner say? Oh, the cop's like, he's been in there puking since he saw it. Like, oh, that's nice. So Nancy is now trying to get her mother to sleep. She's like, Mother, I love you. Don't worry about it. And her mother says, Nancy, the one thing about you is you face things head on. Maybe you shouldn't, but you do. I'm like, that is the truth. So Nancy's ready. She sets an alarm. She's like, okay, Kruger, we play in your court. And she says a famous prayer that was made famous by James Hetfield. Now I lay me down to sleep, blah, 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 my soul to keep. Okay, that was Dave Mustaine. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up heavy metal, everybody. The genre of music, not the magazine or the subsequent animated film. I wonder how many times I'm going to use subsequent over the next month. Is that I feel like it looks like it's a shadow, but it almost looks like I have hair falling down here. Just a shadow. That's for the YouTube viewers. So she goes into the dream. I think, she's thinking about Glenn, talking about the controlling of dreams, and she is ready to kick some ass as she enters dreamland. She's still in her house, but she goes, Nancy's in bed, but Nancy's mind in this dream world is in the house, goes down to the basement, right by the furnace. The glove's gone. So in the dream, what if Nancy's mother put the glove there? In the dream world, Freddy came to the house and got the glove from there. And that's how he's killing all these kids with that glove, because Nancy's mom kept it. The fact that the glove isn't in the furnace, does that mean that? Does that mean Nancy's mom is responsible for the death of dozens upon dozens of young men and women? If she took that glove and just melted it. Now, maybe Fred would have tried something else. He's done many other ways of killing people. But the glove was his number one method. Now, maybe he could have made another glove. I don't know. But I think the fact that the glove is missing in the dream world tells me that that's where Freddy got it. That's where I'm going with. Unless there's a reason or something that tells me otherwise, that's the theory I'm going with. Oh, I love watching these movies and coming up with these things. So there's another door right there in the basement. It leads down to a sub-basement, which they don't have because all of a sudden it's a boiler room. She hears Glenn screaming. She hears Tina's voice. She's all kinds of things, but she is going towards this, okay? She's climbing down a ladder. She's calling out Freddy. And I'm thinking to myself, time works in the dream world exactly how it works in our life. That works out too. That works out that whatever time is happening in the dream, the exact time is happening in our world. In Freddy's dreams, I'm going with it. That's the way it's going to be. Boom, I love it. Freddy's lurking nearby, but doesn't have his hat on anymore. We see a bed. She's in a room. She finds a crucifix. It's all kind of blending things that are happening in this movie. She sees a fire with Glenn's headphones nearby, all covered in blood. And she's like, come out and show yourself, you bastard. So he does. He comes out and the chase is on. She jumps away, but now she's outside her house. I love these little dreamy kind of things. She yells, where are you? And he comes out and she goes, oh, there you are. She jumps, leaps right on him. Boom. And her alarm goes off and she wakes up. And you think, oh no, it didn't work. But yes, it did, because he's right there. He jumps up. She runs out, locks the door. She sets up the sledgehammer. This obviously is where Kevin McAllister got all his ideas. Sets the sledgehammer up so when you open the door, boom, it's going to come down. Now we're going to get to the worst cop in Springwood. She screams out of the window at the cop like, hey, help me. And the cop's like, everything's going to be fine. Now, I didn't mention this before, but her dad told the cop, go keep an eye on my daughter's house. If anything funny happens, he's like, look for what? Just look for anything funny, anything weird happening. Right away, she's screaming, go get my dad, help, help, help. Everything's fine. Like, boom, right away, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to go do what she said. She actually yells, go get my dad, you asshole. So friggin' great. She smashes a window and yells, like, get here, help, help, help. He's still there. Freddie gets nailed by the sledgehammer, falls over the railing, and Nancy's still egging him on. Come on. I mean, right now, my shorts would be filled with shit, and she's a goddamn hero. Freddie trips over a wire. Boom! A giant gunpowder blows in the light bulb. A big explosion. You think the mom would wake up, but she really must be sleeping one off. She smashes another window. Now, there's been window smashed. Help! An explosion. Smoke. And she yells, please help. The cop's like, maybe I better go get the lieutenant. Now, I thought he was a sergeant, but maybe there's someone else there. She's like, maybe, like, is this the most inept cop? He's like, maybe I should go do something. She's smashing windows, all these things. Finally, like, this guy has to be on Monday morning, go into the office, surrender your gun, surrender your badge, you're off the force. But she keeps, I made a note, Freddie's voice is sounding more like himself now. He's got that deeper voice. Nancy runs into the basement. Freddie chases him, corners him, douses him with gasoline, lights his ass on fire. And he's like, no, but he should have been like, how could the same shit happen to the same guy twice? Like, not again. She runs upstairs and knocks him back downstairs. And I'm like, they just don't do fire suit stunts like they used to. And they probably don't have to. But I feel like, especially in the early 80s, you'd see that a lot of the time in these movies. I remember The Thing had a cool one. Halloween 2 had a good one. This. I feel like there's a lot of that stuff happening. But again, they don't really have to happen, I think, with the way effects are now. So Freddie, he starts working his way up the stairs. He's all fired up, get it? And he's now a good 30 pounds heavier because, whoever's wearing that outfit has to be wearing a flame retardant version with all kinds of layers of stuff because he's got to walk through that fire. Nancy Dad finally effing's making his way over. Nobody notices all the smoke, but he seems like, he gets some guys to come over, smash their way into the house. They go check the basement, but now Nancy sees fiery footprints going upstairs. So she runs upstairs. Freddie is on top of her mother. And the dad bursts in the room and sees this. He covers them with a blanket. And this is where it gets really weird. I don't know what the hell's going on. Takes the blanket off. Freddie's not there. But the mom seemed to burn to death really quickly. And she is now just a husk of a person burnt on a glowing blue bed. Like the bed is glowing blue. And then the body sinks into the bed. Gets pulled in. The bed, she disappears. The bed goes back to normal. And Nancy's like, well, now do you believe me? He's like, I don't know what's going on. But he's freaked out. But I guess he now knows that there's some crazy shit happening. Nancy's like, no, Mom. 2 seconds later, she's like, I'm okay. You go downstairs. I'll be there in a minute. And he leaves his 15-year-old daughter alone in the room where just the mother, burned to death by a monster man and is absorbed into a glowing bed. Completely normal. Nancy's parents, I got to tell you, they are something else. So Nancy stays in the room, and when she turns away, Freddie starts pushing his way through the mattress, like up. Kind of like through when he pushes his way through the wall, but now he's pushing up through the mattress. A very cool visual. And she's like, I know you're there, Fred. And you think, he says, you think you was going to get away from me? I was like, you might as well have had a southern accent there, Freddie. And I wrote all this down. This is great. She goes, I know you too well, Freddie. He says, now you die. It's too late, Kruger. I know the secret. This is just a dream. You're not alive. This whole thing is just a dream. And I'm thinking, what? Is this whole movie been a dream? She goes, I want my mother and my friends back. He says, you what? I take back every bit of energy I gave you. You're nothing. You're shit. He lunges at her and goes, no, and fades away. And like, she used that dream method of taking control, I guess, and saying the whole thing is a dream. So does that mean the whole thing's a dream? Because she opens the door, and when she goes through the door, boom, it's sunny out. It's daytime, and her mother's there, and her mother's dressed up, and she goes, I don't remember last night. I must have had a rough night, but you know what? I'm going to stop drinking. To me, when I hear that right away, I'm like, ooh, this seems like it might be a dream, but I don't know what's going on. So all of a sudden a car shows up, and they're all alive. Glenn, Tina, Rod, they're all there. And Nancy's like, oh, goodbye, Mom. They get in the car, and Glenn's like, can you believe this fog? Now that's a clue. And then the mom says, oh, I believe anything is possible. Is that another clue? I don't know what's going on. Nancy gets in the car, and all of a sudden the convertible roof slams down, and it's got Freddy's red and green stripes on it. The windows start closing on them, like, no, what's going on? No. And she starts screaming to her mom, help, help, help. The car drives away. Mom's just smiling by the door. You see the girls flipping jump rope. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And all of a sudden, Freddy's arm smashes through the door, pulls the mom through the window. It's a really bad mannequin, but it's so quick that it's okay. And it's like 3, 4, better lock your door. Boom, the end. Obviously, the girls keep singing. What happened there? So she says right before, your dream, this is all a dream. So did she awaken to the real world? Or is she still in a dream? We don't see her again. We don't see her till the third movie. By that time, it's all established that these things are happening. So this isn't just a dream in Nancy's world. This is happening. But what happened? I feel like what we were seeing here seemed very dreamlike. The whole thing. So I think Nancy wakes up. I don't know. She obviously wakes up because she comes back in part 3. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know whose dream we're in. Are we in the mom's dream? I don't know. Because it's just a very weird, freaky ending that made it seem like, oh my God, they're all dead. Oh my God, I'm so tired. It is now 12:47 on Saturday the 14th. So it just ended. And were there plans to there probably couldn't have been plans for sequels right away. So that was just the ending to kind of give you that freaky, unsettling ending and make the whole thing unsettling. The sequels is where it comes in to be like, oh, what exactly is, happened to Nancy? Because she's not even in part 2. I'd be interested to see if there's any explanation to what happened at the end. We'll see. But that's it. That's the end. Now, I did look at some of the alternative endings. There were alternative endings to this. All very similar. Just little tweaks. So there's one where the kids drive off and they're fine. Bye, Mom. And they drive off. But the mom still gets it. She still gets pulled through the window. There's one where nothing happens. The kids drive off. We don't see the mom again. We just see the girls are jumping rope. That one, just clever editing. Nothing really different there. And then, we get the exact same ending that we do get, except now they show Freddy driving the friggin' car, which tells me that he might have been killed in the dream world or in the real world, but he's still in the dream world, and tells me that Nancy's still in a dream and possibly is going to get killed. They didn't keep Freddy in it, maybe so that Nancy can come back in the future, but no, you think they didn't? They probably just didn't need it. I mean, it looked like it was not a finished shot. The sound wasn't finished. The look was okay, but yeah, I just wonder why they went with this version, which seemed like the most streamlined, like everything, they're still in a dream, something bad's happening. And what happens from there? I don't even think it matters. I think we kind of jump right to the next movie, the next family living in that house. And next movie will be very interesting because not just the story of Freddy dealing with the another group of kids, but also just the subtext I think that this movie kind of was or has been examined through. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'll talk about it more when we get there. But I really look forward to revisiting that movie. I remember as a kid, I think I liked it, not seeing any of this subtext. But that's not in this movie. That's in the subsequent movie. Yes, I did it one more time. Folks, I need to go to bed, okay? But this was so much fun. This episode's going to get out tomorrow at some point. I got to edit it and put it all together. But I'm not doing it tonight or tomorrow, this morning, whatever it is, because it took too long. But it's all recorded, so I'm very happy to finally get back in the swing of talking A Nightmare on Elm Street or talking horror movies. And now rewatching all these Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Mwah! I love it. So, my friends, I hope you had a nice Friday the 13th, and I hope you're having a nice Saturday the 14th. You can find me anywhere on social media at Geek Mentality. That's Twitter, Mastodon, Instagram, and Threads. I'm not on Blue Sky yet, but I'd love an invite if you know anybody. And you can find the show on Twitter at /horror. Yes, it's called Twitter. And we have a Facebook page, Fans Not Experts. That covers every podcast over at the fansnotexpert.com website. I really don't post much on the Facebook page, but go to the website, fansnotexperts.com. Find every episode of Slash, everything from season 1, the Halloween season, plus an extra movie where I covered My Bloody Valentine. And of course, that's where you'll find every episode of season 2, A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm getting really tired, so I'm kind of losing it a little bit. But that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for continuing to find this podcast. I appreciate anyone who would take the time to listen to me ramble on this long. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for finding me there as well. Hi. Oh my God, I took the glove off. I'll give you a reason why. My phone died. I'm videoing this on my phone because it has a better camera than anything else I have. And I forgot to plug it in. So my phone died. So it was about a 10-minute wait. And then, I'm not going to put the glove back on. It was about a 10-minute wait before I could get enough charge to get back on the high horse of podcasting about A Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing. I will see you soon for part 2. But until then, remember, it's fun to be scared.
Fans Not Experts.